Good morning, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to another Wake Up Wednesday here with me, Asiya Nasir, and founder of Jessica Cares, a nonprofit organization where our mission is to empower teen girls to build up their self esteem and sense of self worth, and for them to be able to show up in places and spaces being the best versions of themselves. So for those of you that are new to, this channel, or this is the first time you're tuning in to Wake Up Wednesday, this is one of the things that we do here at Jessica Cares to help us, help our teen girls to be that, to be their best selves, to, own their self-esteem and sense of self-worth. And so sometimes, we wait for that special event, or we wait for, some workshop or something. And those are great because we do all of those things. But every now and then, especially when we're in those low moments, we need something a little quicker and a little more consistent. And so Wake Up Wednesdays is a conduit to us being able to fulfill our mission in empowering teen girls. So every other Wednesday, I come on here as the founder and I talk about different topics that are relevant to teen girls and, what they're struggling with. And today is no different. So today we're going to be talking about another amazing topic, and that is the girl in the mirror isn't lying. You just stop listening. So what does that mean? What is that about? So a lot of times, as I mentioned before, our whole mission is to help our girls build up their self-esteem. And we see that a lot of our girls struggle at those preteen years and those teenage years with really owning who they are and embracing. And it kind of gets muddled because of all of the outside noise. And so our job is to help our girls to be able to kind of rein it back, bring it back to who they are. And so today, that's what we're talking about. When you're looking in that mirror, your mirror is telling you, it's a reflection of who you really are, right? Your life is a reflection of who you really are. But we've just stopped. A lot of our teen girls have just stopped listening to that inner voice and what they know of themselves and embracing everything else. So we're going to get right into 3 topics that I want to talk about around what we're sharing today. And that is one, what caused our teen girls to stop believing in themselves, to stop listening to themselves. And then the second is to why are our teen girls so prone to listening to the wrong voices? And then I'm going to be sharing, depending on the time that we have, 1 or 2 strategies to help our girls really be able to rein it back, as I was saying, and get back to their original authentic selves. So let's get right into it. So as I mentioned before, especially at this age, our girls are really struggling with embracing who they really are. And some of you as parents, if you're tuning in, are wondering, like, what happened to my daughter? She used to be so confident. She used to be so this. And all of a sudden now, she got to those teenage years and I have no idea who's in my house, right? So a lot of times what happens is, from the time, if you think about it, from the time, especially for girls, when it comes to boys, they're trained to be leaders, to own their own stuff. They're trained to do that as boys. But as girls, a lot of us from a young age are taught to measure up, right? We have to reach this certain goal, not own ourselves like they tell boys, but a lot of times they tell our girls, from a young age to measure up instead of knowing who they are and embracing who they are. So it's always this constant, I'm not good enough. That's the lesson. Because if you have to measure up to something, that means you're deficient in some area, right? So that means you have to measure up. Whereas boys, they're like, take your talents, take your skills, and then we're going to hone in on them to make you even greater. Our girls are taught to measure up because they're not good enough. And so instead of, being taught to know themselves, they're being taught how to measure up, right? So I'll give you an example of what that looks like. So we'll tell our girls, you're pretty, but don't be too confident, right? Don't be too confident. And we're not talking about being conceited. We're literally telling our girls, you're so pretty, but don't be too confident. Or we'll say things like, be strong, but also be agreeable. We'll say things like, be smart, but don't outshine everybody. And this one really hits home when we tell our girls to be different, right? To stand out, but only in ways that other people can digest. Can you believe that? because that outshine, that, make everybody feel comfortable, make everybody be okay with who you are. And so what this does is it literally chips away at our girls' original, self, who they are, right? Owning who they are. We chip away at that because we're telling them everything you are, do this, dim it down, or, don't show it, don't speak about it, don't, that's bragging or whatever. Our girls should be able to own, their beauty. They should be able to own, their talents and their skill sets, right? So this is from a young age. And then when they get to those teenage years here, or they they're outside of the house, meaning they're going to school now you have other voices. Now you got the voices of maybe that teacher who, underestimated you, or that frenemy who, was nice, nasty, and mocked you, and made fun of you in front of other people, or even a family member, which in this case, sometimes it's siblings and even parents, um, speaking from a place of their unhealed place, a space. They're speaking to you from that place. So constantly putting you down. And then, a few years ago, social media came on, and the comparison culture, and everything is about followers and likes. Again, trying to measure up. If I don't have this many followers, I'm not good enough. Oh, my content didn't have this many likes. That means I'm not good enough. So it's this constant comparison, as I mentioned before, this constant trying to measure up for our girls. And at first, some of these comments that people make, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a frenemy, or even a family member, at first it comes across as, well, that's your opinion. But if told enough times, then it becomes a young lady's belief system. And as you know, belief systems, whether it's faith, whether it's politics, whether it's family, when someone believes in something and it becomes part of their belief system, it is very, very difficult to chip that away. And even for that person to unlearn that, it becomes something they're very passionate about. So whether positive or negative, if it becomes a teen girl's belief system, she is going to really struggle with her self-esteem and being able to own who she is, and stop listening to all of the outside noise, right? So they're trained to believe that they're not enough, with all of these external factors. So that's one of the biggest reasons why our young ladies, stop thinking of themselves as good enough, and stop listening to themselves, and start taking on everybody else's, opinions and statements and comments, right? So then that takes us to, well, if we're born with this, feeling good about ourselves, why do we trust the wrong voices? Well, let me just say, the wrong voices, the negativity, the negative commentary, all of those things, that's the one that shows up first, the loudest, and the most often. Because anytime you think about it, anyone who's been doing good in their life, they get the biggest haters. They get the biggest negative content. When we look at people trying to be positivity, trying to do well, look at how people talk about them. Look at how people try to bring them down, right? It's often consistent. But when someone is doing, mediocre, no one talks about it. No one cares, right? It's not making anyone feel uncomfortable. It's not showing up other people in their deficiencies. So nobody talks about it. Everyone's comfortable. But when you actually try to be your authentic self, which statistically they say we are our most brilliant when we are babies, when we are toddlers. That's because we don't have the outside noise. We don't have any filter. We're just who we are. And so we show up, we're fearless, we'll try anything. That's why you'll see kids will jump off of this and do that, because they're fearless. They don't have that level of, oh, that's not going to fit someone else's, comfort zone, or that's gonna make someone look at me like I'm too braggadocious when I'm just being me, right? So you'll statistically and psychologically, it has been proven that when we are our youngest, at our stage of infancy and toddler, we are our most brilliant. So you have to ask yourself, if we're born like that, then why do we trust the wrong voices? Well, I want us to think from the perspective of a teen girl, and that's who the audience that I'm speaking with right now. So teen girls, tell me if I'm wrong. At this age, especially junior high school, that's where it begins, at preteen stage. the sense of belonging means so much to you, right? Acceptance is almost like survival. Having friends, being able to belong, having your crew or whatever that is, that's, having friends, that becomes like almost the most important thing aside from breathing. That becomes the most important thing. So when you're offered a voice of, acceptance, or you can hang out with us, or you're cool, or whatever, even if it's conditional, you can't be friends with that person, or you can't be, in the honors class, or you have to skip classes, even if they're accepting you with conditions, you'll take it. We'll take it. And a lot of our teen girls do that. They'll dim their light in order to be accepted, because that's the most important at that time, is being accepted, right? So those wrong voices, it'll actually sound popular. It'll actually sound popular. It'll actually sound normalized. And our teen girls will often say, tell me if I'm wrong, well, everyone else thinks this way. Everyone else thinks this way. So you'll change the way you naturally think, because you want to fit in, you want to belong, you want to have friends, you want people to like you. And at that age, because your brain has not fully developed, that becomes the most important thing aside from life. So listening to the wrong voices and trusting the wrong voices becomes something that you attach yourself to, even though it's conditional, because everybody else is doing it. Everybody else thinks this way. So maybe I'm the problem. And as I mentioned before, those wrong voices, those are the ones that come first, the most often, and the most consistent, right? So it becomes normalized to you to hear negativity. And then we have the algorithms. We have this thing called algorithms, where algorithms, if you think about it, algorithms is really, it rewards comparison. Everybody pretty much doing the same thing. If your content looks like this, if it's brought about like that, whether it's really influential or not, or whether it has a positive message or not, this is algorithms is, lumping everybody and saying, okay, this is what brings about followers. This is what brings about likes. Okay. So algorithms rewards comparison, not authenticity. So now our girls have this, added pressure to trust the wrong voices. Okay. And there's something else called familiarity. A lot of our girls will trust the wrong voices because, and I know this from personal experience, hearing negativity, being told negative things about yourself from a young age, that becomes familiar. So actually hearing somebody say you're smart, you're pretty, you're this, you're that, you almost feel uncomfortable hearing someone compliment you. You'll shy away from compliments because you don't know how to respond, because it's not familiar. So you'll trust a negative voice because it sounds familiar. So if you was criticized as a young child, or if you were dismissed or neglected, or, that actually feels normal. And so when you become older as a teenager, familiarity will be mistaken for the truth. Familiarity will be mistaken for the truth because it's something that you're so familiar listening to. And so these are the reasons why. So we have to unpack all of this in order to get to where we're about to talk about now. And that is, changing and replacing those negative thoughts with who you really are. So girls, I want you to do this, and I don't have time for 2 strategies, but I do have time for 1 strategy, and that is name the voice. I need you to, there's something called name the voice, check your receipts. Okay. Name the voice, check your receipts. So our brain is constantly thinking. That's why we dream. Our brains never stop. So when we're in our conscious mind, a lot of us, especially as teen girls, will walk around with these thoughts. I'm not good enough. I'm awkward. I don't belong. We're telling, and then as women, we grow up to the, imposter syndrome, because we haven't dealt with it. And we're that little girl that didn't feel she was good enough is still ringing in our head as adult women, right? So all of these things happen. If you don't name it, it's going to control you. And what I mean by naming it, I want you girls, this is a strategy that I want you to use. When you're naming it, you have to ask yourself, whose voice is this? Whose voice is this that's telling me I don't belong, that I'm not good enough, that I'm awkward, that I'll never amount to anything, that I should just settle? Whose voice is that? I know where mines came from. I know exactly where mines came from. And this is what Jessica Cares uses. It's like the peel the onion method. We're going to get to the root of it, right? And when you peel an onion, what happens? You cry. So it's not the most pleasurable feeling, and it may bring about tears. But again, as I mentioned before, if you don't name it, it's going to control you. So did this come from parents? Whose voice is telling you that? Is it your parents? Is it your siblings? Is it a teacher? Is it a so-called friend that's been telling you this, and you've been friends with this person for a long time? Is it social media now? Because a lot of our teen girls get social media at young ages. And so they're listening to this comparison culture, and that, this is letting them know if their body's not like this, their face is not like this, their hair is not like this, they don't live in this certain area, they don't belong, they're not good enough, right? So you have to name where this is coming from. So is it my parents or whoever? Whose voice is it that's ringing in my head, playing rent free in my head, right? But then I want you to do what's called check your receipts. So first, peel the onion, get to the root of where these voices are coming from. And then I want you to check your receipts. And that is ask yourself, what proof is it that either is, bringing evidence to what I'm thinking or proving it to be untrue? So ask yourself, what grades am I getting? Am I really smart? What skills do I have? What talents, what gifts do I have that I'm good enough? I'm good. I have a lot to offer, right? Or what times have you even showed up, just as you are, and it felt good, right? Ask yourself those things. Ask yourself, when did I show courage? When was I brave? When did I show up my best self without, worrying about what people think? Because every now and then we get that, right? I want you to think about those things, and those are your receipts, because truth shows up with evidence. The stuff that's living rent free in your head, a lot of times it has no evidence to it, no facts to it, no receipts to it. But truth, when you ask yourself and you really reflect, and that's why self-reflection is so important. When you really reflect on, who you really are and how you show up, in spite of, wondering who's watching, but you just show up who you are, and your grades reflect that, how you treat people reflect that, all of those different things, then you can sit up here and you can drown out the noise, because the truth will always show up as evidence. Keep telling yourself that. Write it down. I wanted to share more about this, but write it down, the things that show up for you every day, and then read it every single week. So that way you can now drown out the noise and the lies, and then replace them with the truth of who you are. So that way, when you look in the mirror and you see what you see, you'll agree that it's not lying. And this time you'll start listening. So that is what I wanted to share with our Wake Up Wednesday today. This is towards the end of the year. We're going to have some great content, more great content on our Wake Up Wednesdays. As I always share with you, I would love for you to do the same. So if you have a teen girl in your life and you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, she should hear this, please make sure you share. Sharing is caring. And if you benefited from this yourself, even as a parent, hit that like button. Hit that like button, comment on there what you took away from this, and make sure, again, that you share it with someone, or, share it on your page for anyone that might need to listen to this information, so that way our community can grow and our teen girls can find this information. So talk about, the algorithms. This helps, but now we're sharing positivity authentically, organically, and growing our community. So again, that's what I wanted to share with you on our Wake Up Wednesday. This Wednesday, stay tuned, because in a couple of weeks, we will be coming back on with another Wake Up Wednesday session. If you have a topic that you haven't heard or that you would like for us to discuss here, please DM me or inbox me and let me know what topic you would like to listen to, because we would love to share it and have that conversation. Also, if you're just tuning in and you missed part of it, please go to our website. I mean, not our website, our YouTube channel. Go to our YouTube channel, Jessica Cares 1, and you can sit up there and subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss another session of our Wake Up Wednesdays. So with that being said, stay intentional, stay empowered, stay who you authentically are, and marinate on the information, because you can definitely, our brain is wired that we can unpack and turn negativity around. So see you at the next Wake Up Wednesday.